This show features adults using adult language. You have been warned.
You guys are like the worst band ever. You are like the anti-Pentatonics. Out of key and can't keep a beat. It's amazing. This is HammerCast, episode 24, bringing you your weekly news and discussion about the world of games, smashing buttons, clicking mice, shuffling cards, and rolling dice. Today is Wednesday, September 2nd, 2015. My name is Dwayne Sibilly, and across the country from me is my co-host, Mr. Joe Hollis. Good afternoon, Joe.
Good afternoon, Dwayne.
Long time no see. How you been doing?
Pretty good. Pretty busy getting ready to move and drive across the country back toward you guys.
Yeah. And that's actually the reason why our other co-host, Todd Chartier, is not with us today. He's in the midst of moving as well. And joining us in his stead is Jennifer Sibilly, lifelong gamer and member of the Hammer gaming community. Welcome to the show, Jennifer.
Hello.
And yes, those of you who are astute listeners will notice we have the same last name. Jennifer is my wife. So, Joe, it's been a few weeks since you've been on the show. What have you been playing lately?
I've been playing a lot of Ark Survival Evolved. We finally got our server set up, and thanks to Dwayne, we've got a lot of the settings the way that we like them. So I think we can a little more loosely invite people because we don't have to worry about griefing as much because you won't be able to destroy other people's stuff, kill their dinosaurs, stuff like that.
Anything else other than Ark?
No, not really.
Just all Ark all the time.
I was recently enforcing at PAX Prime, so I played a bunch of different games on the computers there before the show started because I was working in PC free play. So I played some Rocket League on the computers there.
Love that game.
A lot of people were playing League of Legends. I was not. And I played some Binding of Isaac in my spare time.
Mm-hmm.
But Rocket League, it was the first time I actually got to play it. It is actually a pretty fun game to play. I still stick to it's not very fun for me to watch it.
Yeah, it is more fun to play than it is to watch, but I do enjoy watching it mainly because it reminds me a hell of a lot of hockey and soccer, which are two things I do enjoy watching. Jennifer, what have you been playing?
I have been playing... what have I been playing? I've been playing a lot of Bravely Default on my 3DS. I've played a little bit of Pokemon Shuffle in those times where I get a game over in Bravely Default. And I recently got back into Diablo III with the new patch, as well as a little bit of World of Warcraft again.
All right. Let's see. I have been playing quite a bit of Kerbal Space Center once again. I've actually started a new playthrough, and I about 2 years ago I fired up a Tumblr blog to chronicle an old playthrough I was going through back then in a in-universe perspective, kind of like a role-playing blog for Kerbal Space Program, because I'm just that much of a dork. And I've gone ahead and rebooted that. So I'll go ahead and put a link in the show notes in case anybody wants to see me fly rockets and actually talk about them. Aside from Kerbal Space Center, I've also been playing Bravely Default, inspired by Jennifer, and I've been playing an awful lot of Diablo III because of the new patch. I will totally admit that a lot of my Diablo III play is being motivated by a little incentive that Blizzard rolled out in patch, 3.2 or 2.3 that came out earlier this week. So, or actually, was it last week? It may have been last week now that I'm thinking on it. But in any case, that's pretty much what I've been playing. Let's go do the news, shall we?
Yep. I forgot that I was... I forgot to mention I've also been playing Diablo 3 with you guys, so...
Yes, you have.
There's that.
We were running rifts just last night.
Yep. It's fun to just pick up the game every once in a while and play again.
Agreed. So we've got some Blizzard news. World of Warcraft patch 6.2.2 has finally brought flying to Draenor, which has been long awaited. If you went ahead and satisfied all the requirements for the flying achievement, which we detailed a few shows ago, the Draenor Pathfinder meta achievement, then as of this patch, which was deployed this week, you'll be able to go ahead and fly using your flying mounts in Draenor. Aside from that, it doesn't seem like they really introduced a whole bunch of note. A couple of rare elites to be found in the world for players to conquer and get loot from, and a few achievements for having a shit ton of mounts and toys. 300 mounts gives you Lord of the Rains, and 200 toys gives you Crashin' Thrashin' Commander, and a title, which is kind of neat. Have either of you played World of Warcraft since the patch rolled out? I don't believe I have.
I have not.
I logged in to rotate garrisons this afternoon, and I've not done anything with the. I've not gone to the jungle, but I did go to the auction house, as I am wont to do, and I did notice that the game tokens, the tokens that you can buy with Warcraft Gold for 1 month of playtime, have gone up by 5,000 gold since I bought them last. I'd probably attribute that to the subscription rate going down by millions since the last since our last expansion. So it looks like there's a lot less people who are buying those tokens to support their own gold habits in the game.
Wow.
Yeah, World of Warcraft is down to 5.6 million subscribers after last quarter. They dropped 1.5 million subscribers in the previous quarter, which is crazy.
Yeah, I didn't realize it had dropped so far.
Yeah, their subscriber numbers have not been this low since before there were expansions, some like 8 or 9 years ago now. In other Blizzard news, as we mentioned earlier, Diablo III patch 2.3 is now out, and with it started season 4 of their seasonal play schedule, and it adds a ton of content. The new Keen Eyes Cube, which you can use to craft and strip items of their enchantments for use elsewhere, and as well they've got this really cool new incentive, if you're a big fan of Blizzard games in general, where if you start a new seasonal character, and between now and next week, that's September 8th, you can go ahead and get a seasonal character to 70, and it unlocks a mount, a Malthael styled mount inside of Heroes of the Storm. That is the primary reason why a whole ton of hammers are playing Diablo 3 this week, and probably will continue doing so until this promotion is over.
It's a good promotion.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely got all of us back in the game. Now, I know it's been a long time since the three of us were actually playing Diablo 3 in earnest, so what has changed for you that has made the game better? Jen?
I really love playing seasonal characters. It seems like they throw a lot of legendaries at you, because all the new equipment goes to a seasonal character first before your seasonal character is over, and then everybody else, the non-seasonal characters, get to use that loot as well. So I think it's fun to get a lot of shinies while you level. So that's a good incentive to log back in the next day to play. And they've done a lot with adventure mode. So it really helps with people who have gone through the quests hundreds of times and spacebarred their way through all of them because you know all the dialogues. So they've made a lot of mechanics to help you keep the game interesting and keep your leveling not so grindy, but still fun.
How about you, Joe?
I've been really enjoying the adventure mode. I've been enjoying the rifts that you can do. I like that they made them the regular rifts they made free, so you don't have to go collect the shards that you need to open up the rift. The advanced rifts, what are they called? What are the tougher rifts called?
The greater rifts?
Greater rifts still cost resources to open, but you could just go through the normal ones to level, to get gear. I feel like you get more legendaries out of the rifts than you do from the normal gameplay or adventure mode even. There was one point where we opened, what was it, like 3 normal chests, and I got 2 legendaries out of it. Callie got like 3. Ishar got a couple. It's fun. I like shinies, so
who doesn't?
Right. I like seeing that orange pop up and you hear that chime or that noise of the legendary hitting the ground. It instantly makes you want to look for where it dropped so you could pick it up and find out what it was.
It's so satisfying to hear those very specific sounds in the game.
And I will mention it's much less frenetic than it was in Diablo 2 because now your loot is your own. In Diablo 2, when something nice dropped, it was a race to try and get to it with everyone else because the loot that dropped on the ground was visible by everyone.
Oh.
So it was whoever clicked on it first.
Right. I have memories of killing Diablo and Baal and the other big bosses. And once the boss got down to 5%, everybody would stop attacking the boss because now you, instead of using your mouse to click on the boss and use your keys, you were waiting for somebody else to kill them, and you would be holding the Alt key down, which was the key that showed item names, so you could see the drops on the ground, and you would hover your mouse over where the boss would die so that you would be the one to scoop up the loot and try and beat out the other 7 people. But what would happen is everybody else figured that out too. And so at 5%, Diablo would kind of come back and try and take the rest of you out because everybody gave up and stopped killing him. And then he would usually like take out 1 or 2 people before he would die.
But then it became the strategy of letting everybody else die so you could finish them off and pick up the loot.
Right.
I don't know if that actually happened. I didn't play Diablo 2. I like the personal loot in Diablo 3.
Agreed. And our last bit of Blizzard news for this week, StarCraft II, Legacy of the Void, which will finally bring a close to the StarCraft II storyline and saga, will have its premiere live stream from Blizzard on the 13th of September. Legacy of the Void is going to be a standalone game, unlike the first 2, Wings of Liberty and Heart of the Swarm. Wings of Liberty was the core game, and Heart of the Swarm was an expansion. You needed the first in order to play the second. And Legacy of the Void will be a standalone, a game you can play on its own without owning the first 2 titles in the series. I suck at RTS games, but just like with bowling, even though I suck at it, I really, really enjoy playing them. So I'm very much looking forward to this, and I plan on being right here at my desk at 10 a.m. Pacific and 1 p.m. Eastern on the 13th to go ahead and live tweet it over on our live event account. That is HammerCast_live on Twitter. Are either of you excited about Legacy of the Void?
I'm excited because I think Blizzard always tells a pretty good story with well, I guess this isn't, as you say, an expansion, but they just tack on more story to what is happening in the StarCraft world. So it'll be interesting to see if they add a new vehicle and then maybe the main character is going to drive it, and then I'd be interested just to see how they're going to work this out.
How about you, Joe?
I still haven't played through the campaign of the first one. I don't have the second expansion. I guess I'm just not as interested in StarCraft as I was on the first one. I played the hell out of the first one, but I haven't played much of the second one.
We'll have to find some time to fix that then.
Yeah, I own the first one, and multiplayer gives you all of the expansions to play that with. You can't play the single-player campaigns without the expansions, but it would be
Right.
interesting to play a game, I guess.
Let's see. Star Citizen's social module launched this week. This is a large landing zone / hangar / social space that takes place. I'm trying to see if it's either a space station or planet side. The article we'll post in the show notes doesn't really make it clear, and I haven't installed the game yet to take a look for myself. But in patch 1.2, they added the ArcCorp Area 18 landing zone, which up to 25 players can now wander around at will. It's got a couple non-functional shops, a bar, and other social spaces for you to speak with and emote with your friends or perfect strangers. So this is laying the groundwork for the social spaces in the game that will be coming as the game gets closer to completion. This seems interesting, and a lot of the stuff that they showed off at Gamescom was really, really inspiring. In fact, it was the stuff that put me over the edge to actually backing the project rather than sitting on the sidelines going, yeah, I'm not so sure they've got their act together. And then they had this big presentation at Gamescom, which we'll put in the show notes, that just blew my damn pants off. It was amazing. Did either of you guys see that demo?
Yes.
I did too, and it looked pretty, but as I've not been following Star Citizen very closely, that's about as much as I can comment on it. It looks neat, and it's nice that there's a little social part for players who have invested in this to at least to experience while they're waiting for the rest of the game.
Right.
Now you can fry your computer while chatting to people.
Well, how else are you supposed to cook your ramen while you're playing on your computer? You got to run those really hefty games to get that temperature up.
Yeah.
In June, when we covered E3, we noted that there were a ton of games that were announced but had no release date, and a handful of games that had release dates, but some of them seemed really aggressive. We already talked last week about how Rainbow Six Siege has been delayed. Well, now we've got a few more. Assassin's Creed Syndicate has been delayed until the 19th of November on PC. It's running late because they want to make sure that PC players are getting the most stable, optimized version of the game on day one. Now, this is yet another Ubisoft title that was talked about heavily at E3 that has been delayed. Are we concerned?
No. I like that they're taking a little bit more time to make it work on PCs, because I think there's been a trend going on where they release a port to PC that isn't optimized, and you end up running into a lot of those glitches. So I'd rather wait another month for an optimized PC version than get a buggy piece of crap that doesn't work. I'm looking at you, Batman. That one definitely could have used a little bit more time in
the oven,
bug testing in the oven before it became a PC available title, because it just was not ready for PC. Which they did pull it off the market, right?
Right. They are no longer selling it until they fix it, whenever the heck that's going to be. Jen, are you at all concerned for Assassin's Creed Syndicate?
I'm not concerned. I think I echo Joe's sentiments here. I mean, if you look at Grand Theft Auto, it takes them a year to take their console game and then throw it onto the PC, and that's because there are so many things in those games that you need to make sure that everything is working appropriately. And so I know PC gamers are going to be frustrated when the console players are playing a game that they can't. But if you want a good game, then you still need to be patient.
That says some very interesting things about the relative difficulty of developing to a console versus home computers. Another game that's been delayed is XCOM 2, 2K's sequel to their blockbuster XCOM reboot. Has been delayed to February 5th, 2016. It was originally supposed to come out this November. So what could they possibly get done in another, what it would be, 3 months?
Maybe they found some sort of game-breaking bug or a major, memory leak or something. Maybe they just realized that they needed to change something. I'm not sure. Maybe they were too anxious with their release date and they wanted to get it out sooner. And then as they get closer to the date, they realize that it's not going to be ready by then.
Right.
Again, I'd rather see a game delayed than pushed out buggy. So,
Jen?
It's funny how people will make jokes about Blizzard's soon copy trademarked word, but then if another company goes, "Oh, give us another 3 months so we can make sure that something's not going to break when we ship it to you," then there are some people who will get up in arms about it. So I think no matter what, if you break a promise to someone, then they're going to get frustrated. But if you ship them a bad game, then there will also be people who are frustrated. So I don't know if these developers, they just set a deadline, a year from where they're at, maybe 0.9 in a beta. And so they think it will be ready by then, and then they find out that it's not. As Joe says, maybe they found something huge, and you don't want to ship it out because now there's been a ton of bad press on games that are shipping that are no good.
I've seen games that had a lot of promise ship when they were supposed to, and they were so buggy that nobody bought their game even after they fixed the bugs. It just became known as that game that's super buggy, do not play it. And so when they update it, when they get it working the way that they wanted, people are still wary to get it because it was so buggy when it launched.
Right. Yeah, the first impression is definitely the most important. And if your initial reviews and initial fan commentary on the game is negative, you can really never recover from that. I think the only game in recent history I can think of that was kind of panned at launch, but still managed to do well through updates is Destiny. Like Destiny Destiny is kind of like the best 6 out of 10 game you will ever play, because all of the critics panned it, but yet people who've played it for more than like 2 weeks are still playing it. Yeah. I know people who still haven't taken the Destiny disc out of their console in a year, because we're coming up on a year since release. Oh, wow. And they're still going. So that definitely got turned around for Bungie, which is really nice.
Well, so speaking on pushing back release dates on things, since I've been playing Ark, I've been kind of browsing the forums and trying to catch when patches are going to come out ahead of time so that I know what's coming out, when it's supposed to come out, and all that. And they'll sometimes tie a date to an update, like say 204 is coming out on Friday. And if they push that back, sometimes they just push it back a day or later that day. Mm-hmm. But people still get all angry because they're like, you said it would be out today. I waited all day today to play it and it's still not out. What the hell? I'm going to uninstall this game. I'm getting a refund. And it's like, they're pushing it back one day. You can wait one day for them to fix the bugs that they found before they released it.
Right.
It's just, yeah. I mean, a month, 2 months, a day, people are going to get mad when you push back a release date on something. And
right.
It's just impatience.
You bringing that up actually ties into something I read this week. Going back to Star Citizen a little bit, there was a great long-form article on Polygon entitled, "What the hell is going on with Star Citizen?" And we'll go ahead and put that in the show notes as well. But it basically boils down to Chris Roberts saying that he's basically damned if he does, damned if he doesn't, because he's got backers who are saying, don't give us release dates, take as long as you need, just make it right. And he's got backers who are like, I want to play this game. I want to play it now. When's it going to be out? Is it out yet? Is it out yet? Why isn't it out? What do you mean you said it's going to be out tomorrow and now it's going to be out 2 weeks from now? I want it now. I want to play it now. And
right. Those same people who are shouting that they want it now are probably not going to be the people who play it in the long term. The people who are being patient and wanting them to make it perfect are the people who are in it for the long haul. They're the people who are going to be playing the game well after release, making, making their own character and traveling the stars for a while the people who want it now want to get into there, do a bunch of stuff, probably get bored with it because they're too impatient to get all the resources to keep upgrading their stuff and then move on to another game that they want right now.
Right.
So
people will remember a good game, and if they write an article about it, the delays in a good game will be a footnote, but it'll be a footnote that they took a long time to make a good game. But if you make a bad game, then the development of that will not be a footnote. It will be they rushed this out the door, and that is not something that you can change.
Right.
Well, I mean, that is a good point. And if you do make a bad game, then it does hurt your brand. It hurts the publisher. It hurts the studio. It hurts the IP that you've crafted the game around. I mean, look at what's happening with Batman. But in 2 years from now, nobody's going to remember that particular Batman game and the troubles it's had on PC. I think it's the "you took a long time" thing that amplifies things in people's heads. If you took a long time and made a great game, then people will remember that for being a great game. But there's the opposite of that, where you took a long time and made a bad game.
Yeah.
Need I bring up Duke Nukem Forever?
Oh, God. Nobody will ever buy another Duke Nukem game.
Well,
everybody will look at it and see the new Duke Nukem is coming out, and they'll be like, "Yeah, it's going to come out in 5 years and be this crappy game,
and then be terrible."
I don't know. I think if Gearbox actually sits on the IP for a little bit and lets it fade from memory a little, then they could go ahead and reboot the thing properly with proper modern tech and take something a little less than 14 years to make it. And they might have a shot at getting some mind share, some traction there. So Telltale Games is making one of their awesome story games in the Minecraft universe. And there's a great article on The Verge this week about how Telltale is going about giving Minecraft a very minimalist, Spartan, storyless game a story, because you can't have a Telltale game without a story. Did any of you guys get a chance to read this over? Because I found this utterly fascinating.
Yes. Utterly. Makes me think of punching cows in Minecraft. Anyway, when I first heard about it, I heard about it at PAX, and I kind of like sneered at it. I was like, that sounds stupid. But I was reading over the article, and I was thinking of the whole, concept of it. And, the characters are going to be based around people who play the game. There's going to be the person who likes to stay home and build a really nice building. There's going to be the people who just like to go out and adventure, find all the hidden dungeons, and just do everything in the game. I hope that they add some sort of person who likes to really make overly complex machinery. I don't know if they'll have mods in mind for the Telltale games. I imagine it'll probably be based very much around the vanilla game. If they did manage to throw in the mod, the wink toward the mod developers and everything, I think people would really appreciate that. So I think there's some really cool things that they can do with the Telltale Games Minecraft thing. And it would be interesting to see a storyline based around it. It takes place after basically the end of Minecraft that you can do, killing the Ender Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very curious to see what kind of story they can come up with after the end of your Minecraft game. Like, what kind of story are they going to come up with based around it?
Yeah, I might actually get this. Jen, did you get a chance to look this over?
I browsed, I skimmed this, and this is fascinating, and I do like how they're incorporating different types of people. I feel like it's a little bit like the Lego movie. You have the person who likes to just put everything in order. There's another person who likes to do things by the directions. There's somebody who just wants to throw everything together, and it doesn't matter if the colors match or not. So if they can get all those character types and put them together in a story, I think that'll be compelling to a lot of Minecraft players to see how they fit into to something. And if Patton Oswalt is a voice actor in this, that's he's got a lot of geek cred, so that'll make it interesting.
But can you build a spaceship?
Spaceship. There needs to be somebody living in a giant castle with a very detailed oriented, perfectly looking castle with all sorts of decoration. And then across the way from them needs to be some guy with a half wood, half dirt built hut.
Surrounded by Nerdpoles.
Surrounded by Nerdpoles, yes. That has to be a thing because it's totally the way Minecraft works.
So Lionsgate, as the Hollywood studio, has acquired the rights to Borderlands from Take-Two and Gearbox, and they're working on making a film based in the Borderlands universe with Avi and Ari Arad. This is the father-son duo that helped produce a bunch of comic book movies, including Iron Man, Spider-Man, and X-Men. So that could be interesting, although given the history of films based on video games, I can't let myself get too excited. I love Borderlands, but Hollywood just doesn't seem to get video games. Is this something that might be good, Jennifer?
It might be good if you have somebody who put comic book movies together. Borderlands is very with it the cell shaded gives it a cartoony feel of a lot of the game, gives it the comic book vibe as well. So if you can get those instances in the gameplay to translate to a movie, it could happen. I'm looking. I don't know which Spider-Man or X-Men movies they've made, because that's something that they've redone a couple times in the last 20 years. So I'm curious as to which Spider-Man they worked on, but it has promise, but we'll have to wait and see.
How about you, Joe? You played a bunch of... I know you finished Borderlands 1. Have you finished Borderlands 2 with Dregger yet?
Yes, we finished that probably a month or so ago. 2
Excellent.
months. Yeah, I don't know. It seems very hit or miss. I've seen some movies that they can do some justice for the video game, but there's far too many out there where they've just done a terrible job at recreating the video game in a movie setting. Mm-hmm. Mario Brothers.
No.
The Doom movie. I mean, that was a good movie by itself, but compared to Doom, it wasn't a good movie.
Right.
Like if you compare it to the video game, it's a bad movie. If you compare it to just some action, gore fest kind of movie, then it was an all right movie. So I think that it would end up being a lot like, what was that game? Oh, what was that movie that just came out recently?
Are you talking about Mad Max?
Mad Max. Because Mad Max kind of gave me the vibe of Borderlands. So if they could combine kind of a Mad Max feel with the Borderlands characters and the enemies in it, then they could do a good job with it. I just hope that they can keep very accurate to the story of Borderlands and the kind of personalities that you see in the video game.
I think you could pick one character in Borderlands, give them a 2-hour origin story with the other characters as supporting cast, and I think they could go on a small adventure, and that could be a good movie. You have enough depth in this universe that you can definitely put them all together. They have personalities and set them off towards something. You just need somebody to make sure that it stays true to its original medium.
Yep.
Well, I'll keep my fingers crossed and hope that this ends up as a passable video game film. ArenaNet dropped a bombshell at PAX Prime last week, announcing that Guild Wars 2 will now be available for free. You'll be able to access the core game, that's everything up until this year's upcoming Heart of Thorns expansion, for absolutely free. The game was already a subscription-free MMO. You just paid $60 up front for the software, and you could just be off to the races without having to drop another dime. And that experience, with some limitations, is going to be absolutely free. And if you buy the upcoming Heart of Thorns expansion, not only will you get all of those restrictions lifted and have the privileges of any other paid purchaser of the game, but you will also get to experience a first in the Guild Wars universe. They're actually adding raids to Guild Wars 2. Between the free-to-play entry and the fact that they're adding raids and stuff, I might actually give this a try after the Diablo 3 promotion is over and I no longer need to rush a character to 70. So what do you guys think about Guild Wars 2 going free? You want to give it a try?
I already bought the games, so I've already played. I have a few characters that I was playing with people, but it just always seemed to get sidetracked because it's just me and one other person usually playing at a time. Mm-hmm. And we go through a few questing zones. We get, some levels. I haven't gotten very high level, but then our schedules always become unsynced, I guess. And I don't like playing the game by myself. It's not a very fun game for me to just grind at stuff by myself. I need somebody else.
Would you say that their solo experience is not as compelling as World of Warcraft?
Yes, it's a lot more fun to play with somebody else. The quest system in it isn't compelling enough to play by yourself. I think you need other people in order to kind of create your own fun in the game.
Right. Okay. Jen, would this be something you would give a try to, considering that we no longer have to actually buy the game?
I would give it a try. I know next to nothing about Guild Wars except that it's been around for a very long time, so I'd probably need to see some footage just to see what I would be getting into. But as you know, with a lot of things going free to play, that's definitely something where you go, yeah, if it's free, why not give it a try?
I do have one complaint about Guild Wars 2. They were very big about giving you kind of these, they'd give you special items if you played their first game. And I played a lot of their first game. I got to max level, did a lot of their quests at endgame. And I got these special kind of transmog items that you could turn your armor into special looking armor. Mm-hmm. But recently there was an exploit with it. And so they turned the whole feature off. So you couldn't actually claim the items anymore. And there's a lot of stuff. I mean, it's not really a ton. It's just a lot of transmog kind of stuff. There's some other things that I can't remember off the top of my head, but they turned it off months ago because they said they were going to fix it, but they still haven't turned it back on. As far as I know, last time I checked was a month ago or so.
Right.
So, but it had been off for months already. And it was just kind of, I don't know, they're taking a while because
to get around to doing things.
Right. They say they fixed the bug, but they haven't turned it back on because they said that they want to retroactively take stuff from the people who managed to kind of cheat the system a little bit with it. I can't remember what the cheat was.
I wonder if that's just a bunch of grunt work that they're deferring until they can justify the expense of putting people on it. It's not like Blizzard where they're collecting millions of dollars every month in subscription fees. Everything they do with this game has to be justified by how are we going to pay for it.
Right. And the fact that they're making the base game free just says to me that they must be making some money off of their in-game store.
Right. Well, we'll see, and we'll see if the Hammer is interested in giving Guild Wars 2 a try now that it's free. Final Fantasy 15 has been confirmed. It doesn't have a release date because this is Square Enix, and Square Enix doesn't do release dates, but we know it'll be coming out sometime in 2016. The game's director, Hajime Tabata, confirmed at PAX Prime in Seattle that the game will release next year, and that they plan on holding a special Square Enix event in March where they will unveil the game's actual release date. So that tells us two things. It's not coming until next year, and if they're waiting until March, we're probably not going to see it until late summer or the holiday season. So a year or more to Final Fantasy 15, which is kind of disappointing given how long they've already been working on it. But as long as it's good, as long as it's better than Final Fantasy 13, I guess I'll be okay with that. Joe?
I haven't played a Final Fantasy game in a really long time. I really want to because they're really fun games.
You know, they're available on PC now.
I was about to say they're usually just console, and I was about to ask if there was a way to get any of them on PC.
Absolutely.
So I might have to, you'll have to recommend me a good one at some point to actually sit down and play, because I hear that there are some bad ones out there. So I want to try to avoid the bad ones and play the good ones.
There aren't really bad ones. They're simply less good ones. There are the quirkier games.
Well, if I'm going to get one of them, then I want to get one of the really good ones.
Yeah,
yes.
I understand.
I definitely
a lot of the really
good
ones are not available on PC, but I'm sure we can figure something out for you.
Like, I want to try the remade 7 because I never played the original 7.
Right. I will say that I do have a spare Nintendo 3DS that's just collecting dust if you need something to play Final Fantasy games on in your collection.
I have a 3DS. It's an older version. I think it's the... it's a lot older, but I think there's some games that I could get for it.
Right on. Okay. Jen, how do you feel about Final Fantasy 15? We excited? Are you just kind of ambivalent after the last couple of releases? How do you feel?
I am excited, but I'm looking at the article from our notes here, and there's a sentence: those features were reportedly somewhere between 30% and 80% complete. And that is just mind-blowing, because I guess if they're not giving you a release date yet, there's still things to be done, but that's just such a vague percentage that it's not done. So I will hold my breath and I'll wait for reviews when the game actually comes out. I'm excited for it, but I'll try not to put a lot of hope into it until we learn more.
Right. Okay, and last and kind of least on today's news, Pokemon Shuffle. Jen, you mentioned you play this on occasion on your 3DS. Pokemon Shuffle is now available on iOS and Android. We had detailed months ago about Nintendo saying they were making moves to bring their titles and their IP to mobile platforms. So I guess this is it. This is the beginning of that effort. Pokemon Shuffle is a match game akin to Bejeweled and Puzzle Quest and other games like it, only it is themed with the Pokemon universe and has a invasive, if you ask me, free to start mechanic where you have a limited number of lives that allow you to play the game, and once you've run out of them, you either have to wait or pony up some dough to keep playing the game that you were having fun playing. Jen, you're the one of us who actually has the most experience with this particular game. So is this a good thing, Nintendo branching out to iOS and Android, or do you think they're just going to be lost in the noise?
I think for this particular game, as you say, it's another match 3 game, so there's already hundreds of them on your phone. So if you're looking for one that's Pokemon themed, then you can pick that up. And as you say, you get the mechanic for this game is you get 5 lives. They regenerate 1 every 30 minutes. There's a Street Pass feature as well for the 3DS versions that helps get you extra lives if you pass by another Pokemon Shuffle player. I guess that wouldn't be able to work on an iOS. You'd probably need to do some sort of invasive invite mechanic to post to Facebook or something to give yourself an extra life. But this, I think it's a fun game, and I use these games, honestly, when the timer's done, then I am done. I don't need to pony up money to try and match up some more Pikachus so that I can. Oh, geez, and now I'm failing it here. We need to defeat some sort of water type Pokemon. So I think it's a good start, and I think this is a good game for them to start out on. So maybe they'll be able to port some better ones in the future. Some maybe bigger projects.
Joe, would you play this?
Maybe. What systems is it out for again?
It's out for iOS and Android, so you may be able to run it on your phone that's trying to slowly kill itself.
I have an Android. I have the N7.
Oh, that's right. You can play it on your Nexus then. Then you'll be all set. All right, then. So
I do have one more piece of news that I didn't notice on the news article.
Oh?
Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain.
Metal Gear.
It came out yesterday. It released. Release date September 1st, 2015. Yep. I was just looking over because I don't have a whole lot of information on it, but I looked at the Metacritic page for it. Mm-hmm. Currently, it's the top-rated game on PS4 from the initial reviews, and its user score is 8.7 out of 10.
Holy crap.
So people are really enjoying this game right out of the gate. The PC one has an 8.1 out of 10. There's no Metacritics, there's no critics, like official critics that have rated it on PC, but the initial reviews look very positive for this game. And if you're like me and bought a graphics card recently, you got it for free. At some point, I'm going to have to install it and play it because people are really enjoying it so far.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because I just got a $50 gift certificate from Best Buy through my rewards card in my email just today. So I think I might be running out and grabbing Metal Gear Solid after dinner for a whopping $10.
I think the gaming gods are trying to tell you something.
Yes, everything's working together to make sure that game gets put in my hands. Well, that'll be it for this week. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Joe. And thanks to everyone for tuning in. HammerGaming.com/HammerCast/24 is where you can find show notes for this episode. We're Hammer Gaming on Twitter. Follow us and you can get updates on when new episodes are available, as well as other news from the Hammer Gaming community. Jen, where can people find you on Twitter?
I am Jersey03, JERZY03 at Twitter.
And Joe, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter, DAZIKLP. That's DazikLP on Twitter. Also, if people want access, we mentioned at the beginning, for the the Hammer Arc server, I'm looking for personal messages on Twitter. You can send me one there, or you can send a message on the Hammer Gaming website, and we'll get back to you with the information.
Sounds great. And I'm Valthonis on Twitter. That's VALTHONIS. Again, thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye!